Style is the answer to everything. A fresh way to approach a dull or dangerous thing. To do a dangerous thing with style is what I call art.
Today, we'll be looking at the Osaka Pro Tour Limited Lobo. For those of you interested, I've put timestamps in the description, so if you're looking for a specific part of the review, feel free to skip ahead to the part you're looking for. Without further ado, let's get into the review. This stick is a part of the Osaka Pro Tour Limited range and can be found on the Osaka website for 4,999 Rand. For that, you're getting a 100% carbon stick with a 24mm Lobo located at 200mm from the bottom of the stick. The stick I used weighed in at 530 grams, however it did feel a bit heavier than that. On the stick itself, it says that the stick is 100% carbon. However, after doing a bit of research, on the website I found that it says it's 98% carbon with 1% Kevlar and 1% aramid, which are both used for reinforcement on the stick. Even though the stick is a Lobo, and has the same bow position as many other Lobos, it feels and looks more like a Pro bow. It has a much more subtle bow compared to some of the other extreme bows we see, such as the Gray's Pro bow. Now that we know the specs, let's see how they translate into performance. Starting with dribbling. The high carbon content gives the stick a very hard touch. However, this doesn't really affect the dribbling too much. It was rather the heavy feeling that you notice, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. In fact, it gave the stick a solid feeling in dribbling, which makes you feel like you're in control. Even though the stick is very similar in weight to most other sticks I've tried, it just feels heavier, which makes dribbling feel a bit slow. So to summarize it, I'd say the stick is not easy to dribble fast with, however, it feels solid and gives you a good amount of control. Aerials. The Lobo of the stick makes it very easy to get under the ball and pop it into the air for aerial skills. This is where the hard touch from the high carbon content is noticeable. Having said that, it is still quite easy to perform basic aerial skills with the stick. It's only really when you start performing more advanced aerial skills that you notice the hard touch and the heavy feeling of the stick. Spinning. The stick was surprisingly good at when it came to spinning. It was rather easy to get the ball into the hook with the stick and perform spins, and I didn't really notice the ball coming out of the stick once performing a spin. Passing and receiving. Passing with the stick was good. It was very easy to get enough power on passes due to the high carbon content. This is also where the heavier feel of the stick gives you a nice feeling of control on your passes. This doesn't necessarily mean it's better for passing other sticks, it just means the feeling of passing with the stick was rather enjoyable. The heavier touch was also noticeable when receiving. It allowed you to get behind the ball and feel quite solid. However, the 100% carbon makes the touch very hard on the stick, so it means your first touch has to be very good when using the stick, otherwise the ball bounces off your stick. I did notice the ball bouncing off the stick more than it does with sticks with less carbon, however that is expected. Slapping with the stick was weird. The high carbon content makes the stick very powerful, so you can get a lot of power in your slaps. However, due to the stick feeling a bit heavier, I really struggled to get my hands to the ball. This left me feeling like I wasn't slapping the ball as hard as I could. I'm sure with a bit of time and adjustments, this won't even be noticeable and you'll be able to get the full power out of the slaps with the stick. Overheads. The bow of the stick made it very easy to throw overheads. I was easily able to throw from the halfway line to B spot. I found it to be very consistent when it came to throwing overheads. I wasn't really expecting the stick to be that good at overheads, but it did surprisingly well. It's definitely one of the most consistent sticks I've used when it comes to overheads. P-flicks was one of my favourite parts of the review. I really enjoyed using it for taking penalty strokes. It was super easy to get good power and speed when going high. It was a little bit more difficult when going low, however anything high was very easy. Cameron also gave it a try and he had no problem finding the top corners with the stick. Definitely highly recommended for P-Flicks by both of us. Comment down below who had the better Dragflicks. Even though the bow of the stick is a low bow, it's not as aggressive as most low bows. This was really noticeable when it came to drag flicking. At first I really struggled to find any rhythm when flicking with the stick, but after a while I got used to it. However, I still enjoy flicking with it. Cameron had a few flicks and he seemed to get the hang of it quite quickly, but we both agree that it's not the best for drag flicking. Shooting. Shooting was where the heaviness and the high carbon content really paid off. The stick produced a lot of power when it came to shooting. With the stick feeling a bit heavier, you had to put in a bit of extra effort to really connect with the ball. But once you connect with the ball, you really hit it. This was one of my favorite sticks to shoot with. The ball just flies with the stick. Backsticks were interesting. Hitting a flat backstick shot with the stick was very easy and was very consistent. However, trying to lift the ball on the backstick when shooting was rather difficult. The benefit of this is that it allows you to constantly hit flat controlled backstick shots or passes. The heavier feel of the stick really gives you a feel of control and power when hitting backstick shots, and that's why it's so easy to keep the ball flat. The heaviness of the stick does mean you can't swing your hands to the ball as fast as you can with a lighter stick. However, this is just down to personal preference whether you prefer using a heavier stick or a lighter stick when it comes to backsticking. Overall. So if you had to spend 4,999 Rand to buy the Osaka Pro Tour Limited low bow, what would you be getting? You're getting a very solid stick that offers you a lot of power. The high carbon and heavy feel gives you the extra power for shooting and backsticks. The bow is also great for overheads and P-flicks. If you're a player who likes to keep it simple and want that brute force, this is a stick for you. If you've stuck around this long, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate you giving me your time. Please let me know in the comments if you have any questions or suggestions. I'd love to hear from you. But now it's time for some bloopers.
Ha ha ha.